This is a mini review of the Arctic Freezer 34 CPU cooler. It's a budget cooler compatible with the AMD AM4 socket and the various Intel LGA sockets. This Arctic Freezer 34 is the PWM version. There is another that comes with non-PWM fans. These are not to be confused with the Arctic 34 eSport or Duo variants, which look fancier but usually cost a bit more. My current build has a Ryzen 5 1600AF with the stock Wraith Stealth cooler, but I saw the Arctic Freezer 34 for a special offer price of £17 after a £10 discount, so I thought I'd give it a go. First, let's test out the Wraith Stealth cooler. Using the stock CPU settings and my average fan curve, I ran 3 runs in Cinebench 20. The last run gave a score of 2616 with a max temperature of 82.3 degrees and an average of around 70 degrees. Next, I gave the CPU an overclock of 3950 MHz and 1.375 voltage. However, I stopped this test during the first run as the temps got to nearly 110 degrees. Unboxed, you get the cooler, an Arctic 12 PWM fan, all the fittings for the aforementioned sockets, a small bit of MX4 thermal paste, and an extra set of clips so you can add a second fan. I didn't film the installation, but it was quite easy to follow the animated guide on the website. Going back to Cinebench with stock CPU settings and the same fan curve I've been using throughout, the third run gave a score of 2646 points, but more importantly, the max temperature was 58.8 degrees, which is a massive 23.5 reduction. The average temperature was around 49 degrees, which is down by 21. Applying the same overclock as before gave 2957 points on Cinebench with a max temperature of 72.6 degrees and an average of around 63. So this Arctic Freezer 34 ran Cinebench with the Ryzen 5 1600AF overclocked at a lower temperature than the Wraith Stealth could when the CPU was at stock settings. As a bonus, I actually had another Arctic 12 PWM fan from when I was building this PC some months ago, but didn't end up using the fan. Adding this on and repeating the Cinebench tests at stock CPU settings, I got a score of 2660 and a max temp of 60.3 degrees. Overclocked gave me 2965 points and a max temperature of 73 degrees. Oddly, that temp was slightly higher than with one fan, but unfortunately, this test was done on a different day, so the ambient temperature was a bit warmer than the previous days. Since filming all this, I've subsequently played around with overclocking the Ryzen 5 1600AF with the Arctic Freezer 34, and I currently have a stable overclock of 4050 MHz at 1.3 volts. The one thing I liked about the Wraith Spire was that it didn't block the visuals of the rear fan. The Arctic Freezer 34 being bigger does block the visuals a bit, but it's well worth it for much better performance, and it's also a lot quieter when the load ramps up.